I'm Keith Olbermann, and this is The Resistance. Perhaps the most crucial break in Trump's Russia scandals comes to us fresh from the pages of The Strand magazine and its new issue for December 1892. Inspector Gregory of Scotland Yard asks Sherlock Holmes, "Is there any other point to which you would wish to draw my attention?" Holmes replies, "To the curious incident of the dog in the nighttime." Gregory states flatly, "The dog did nothing in the nighttime." Holmes concludes, that was the curious incident. Publicly, the attorney for General Michael Flynn, agent of the Turkish government, Russian television contributor, and not briefly enough national security advisor in this shambles of a presidency. Publicly, Flynn's attorney volunteered Flynn to testify to the Intelligence Committee of the Senate or the House or both, and confirmed discussions about testifying, and even revealed he might not be asking for full immunity for his client. And by the following morning, things were not looking promising for he or Flynn. First, a senior congressional official said off the record that the Senate committee viewed Flynn's bid as wildly preliminary and that immunity was not on the table, and a second source added, "at this time." By the next morning, the ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff, in essence said, "too soon." And after Trump's crazy tweet suggesting Flynn should seek immunity from what Trump wants us to believe is a fake news witch hunt, Schiff added, "Everybody should meet Flynn's offer with skepticism." But the headline here is not so much Flynn's offer, but rather the reaction to it from both of the intelligence committees. In short, the dog did nothing in the nighttime, and that was the curious incident, because other similar dogs in other similar nighttimes have barked the house down. In 1973, as the unraveling of the Watergate cover-up began to accelerate, White House counsel John Dean realized he was being set up as the scapegoat. President Nixon asked him to write a report summarizing everything Dean knew about that scandal. Dean, then as now no dummy, quickly figured out that Nixon could use that document as a shield and say the report was the first time he had heard these details, but he could also use it as a spear against Dean by noting it was kind of odd that Dean knew all this stuff when he, Nixon, did not. Dean knew he needed to make a deal with somebody. His lawyer initially approached federal prosecutors with Dean's offer to testify in exchange for immunity, testify not against the president, but against his immediate supervisors. As Dean's attorney at the time, Charles Schaffer, colorfully quoted Dean, "We can't talk about the P." The feds thought about it and turned him down. And then Nixon fired Dean. Dean's lawyer then went to the new committee the Senate had formed to investigate Watergate, which also had the right to request immunity for its witnesses. When Dean said that he was now ready to talk about the P, Dean got his immunity. He got it immediately. He also got something else immediately. He went right into the Federal Witness Protection Program. They moved him out of his home. They moved him to another state. The day 2 months later, when the Senate committee found a witness willing to confirm Dean's suspicion that Nixon had secretly taped all the conversations in the Oval Office, committee counsel Sam Dash had to get Dean to come back from a secure, undisclosed location to Washington just to tell him and get his reaction to that. Starting in the spring of 1973, John Dean spent a total of 540 days as a protected witness. Those dogs didn't just bark the house down, they barked the White House down. But Flynn's offer didn't get as much as a tail wag. I had breakfast with John Dean last Saturday morning. I've known him for nearly 20 years and consider him both a friend and a true American hero. Happily, we had so much to talk about that Michael Flynn barely took up 5 minutes, but as usual, John made the most of those 5 minutes. Yes, the obvious reaction to Flynn's offer to make a deal is the suspicion voiced by Adam Schiff and reinforced by this child Trump's tweet. His lawyer may have offered nothing and demanded everything. Less obviously, these unusually public comments by the attorney and by Congressman Schiff could be opening gambits, each man staking his ground for a battle to come over what Flynn testifies to and what he gets for it. Except that Flynn's lawyer is named Robert Kellner, and his bachelor's degree was in politics and Russian studies, and he wrote his thesis on the black sheep of the Russian Revolution, Trotsky, and he was a never-Trumper, and last June he tweeted, quote, "Spy novel script, Russia hacks DNC for Donald Trump oppo, Trump says nice things about Putin. And 3 weeks before the election, Kellner blasted Trump for claiming the voting was rigged, and Kellner said, quote, "The only real threat to this election is the reported effort by Russian intelligence services to hack election systems, which is something that Trump himself has failed to condemn." Not only does that not sound like a lawyer offering nothing and demanding everything, but Kellner's letter sounds like he's not asking for everything. It ends, if you will recall, no reasonable person who has the benefit of advice from counsel would submit to questioning in such a highly politicized witch hunt environment without assurances against unfair prosecution. Unfair. Not assurances against prosecution, assurances against unfair prosecution. John Dean reminded me that even he didn't get blanket immunity and did not ask for it. He got use immunity. They can't use what you say while testifying against you, but everything else you've done is still fair game. So Flynn's offer to testify is made by an anti-Trump, Russian conspiracy-affirming student of Russian history whose law firm biography identifies his areas of expertise as including federal and state campaign finance, lobbying disclosure, pay to play, and government ethics law, the Federal Election Campaign Act, Lobbying Disclosure Act, Ethics in Government Act, Foreign Agents Registration Act, and Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. In short, it sounds like Mr. Kellner was born specifically to represent Michael Flynn. And the Senate and House Intelligence Committees aren't climbing over each other to make a deal with Flynn and his anti-Trump lawyer? John Dean smiled. It may be very simple, he said. You immunize somebody to get him to testify against somebody bigger. Flynn would not be given any kind of immunity to testify against Paul Manafort or Carter Page, probably not even to testify against Jared Kushner. The only person bigger than Flynn in this scandal is Donald Trump. So why wouldn't they jump at a chance to get a witness to testify against Donald Trump, even if they had to let Flynn get away with whatever he allegedly did? The likeliest reason? They don't need him to make the case against Donald Trump. They don't need anybody to make the case against Donald Trump. They may have made the case against Donald Trump already. Turns out the dog may not be doing nothing in the nighttime. The dog may be reading through all the transcripts and listening to all the recordings of the Russian diplomat that American intel has reportedly identified as a Russian spy, the same one the Steele dossier charged with supervising Putin's efforts here to get Trump elected. And it may also turn out that the witness vital to convict Donald Trump is actually Donald Trump. Resist. Peace.